Hey there everybody, Mazarok here, and a quick disclaimer before we get into the actual video itself. I do talk about the blacksmith lockpicking skip in this video. As of last night, actually, they did make a change to Neltharus where that door opens automatically. So you do not need any sort of lockpicking to get through to that door anymore. All you have to do is defeat Chargrath, the second boss of Chains, and that way that door is going to open. So if you want to utilize this route in any capacity, you can absolutely do so on your own without actually needing any lockpicking whatsoever. Here's the video that I had originally put up, and it's been on Patreon for a bit, so now it's here for you guys. Thank you very much. Enjoy the video. Bye. Hey there everybody, Mazarok here, and today we are bringing back the So You Wanna Tank series, and we are starting with Neltharus. Well, starting depending on whether or not, this is the first one I release out to the public. It will be the first one out on Patreon. Please do like, comment, and subscribe. But this is a series where we're going to go over poll by poll every little thing that I do in Neltharus and kind of give you the basic rundown on mechanics and all of that fun stuff. Not all of these runs are super clean. There's some stuff that I can't control what the DPS do or anything like that, but we are going to go over all the mechanics and things like that because I do pug a lot of these runs. So before, right when we get started here, let's kind of bring that back and go over this first poll here. Now, the first poll, I just do the first two wardens alone, and there is a reason why. And that's because of the patrols of the pack that are coming up, and I find it just gets a whole lot cleaner. On top of that, these guys really bang on fortified. They cannot be stunned or CC'd. They have a frontal and a brutal slash that you need to be aware of. So I take care of those two, and then as you see here, look at this pat. It is perfect placement for a double pull. So here we'd have to deal with the ore elementals, and as you can see, they have an absorb. What you can do is you can actually purge that absorb. Blood Elf is really, really good at this and can take care of it. All of these runs, this run has incorporeal, which is not exactly the most fun thing to deal with. But this I find is a nice, good double where people can really kind of stack up and get some good DPS going on. The Spine Crushers have a brutal strike that you need to worry about, and then the other mob has a magma conflagration that needs to get stopped. This is kind of something that you just kind of got to worry about. Hard CCs, you're pretty easy, you're good to go. Now after this pull here, I do pull these because, quick disclaimer, I utilize the lockpicking route that I've come up with, and I'm really happy. I've kind of fine-tuned it. There might be a little bit of changes coming into it soon, but it's a really good basic route that doesn't require anything much to skip. But you need to get some extra trash along the way, and I've got a nice route that gives you a nice 100% along the way, and it just allows for more AoE. I have found between the two, this one has a little bit less deaths and better AoE pulls. You just got to watch out for stops. Now, so after you take care of that little 3-pack, we're going to be doing 2 doubles in a row. So here we're going to grab the Thaumaturge, Thaumaturges and Plunderers, and we're going to double them up into this one. Now these ones have a lot of stops that you got to worry about. The Thaumaturges do the magma conflagration that you got to worry about. There's a molten core kick. But all in all, I found that this pull, while it does seem very dangerous, most pugs are actually really good with it. This pull always goes off very smoothly, and I mean, as you can see, the Rogue, the Feral, the Enhanced, they're all super pumping here, and life is pretty good. This is just a pull that requires some stops, really. As you can see, there's not a whole lot of damage that goes out if you kind of rotate through your kicks and stops. Now, the upcoming pull here, because I need these guys for trash, I pull these elementals, and then I bring them up the stairs and pull the rest here. And again, I will utilize the Arcane Torrent for Blood Elf, but if you have a Priest, you can misdirect, so that way you can get rid of all of the things that you need to get rid of. And again, this one goes fairly well as well. There's the magma conflagration that you want to be kicking, explosive stopping, the molten core that you want to be kicking, but there's not a whole lot to worry about. Like, there's not an infinite number of kicks that you kind of have to really worry about. It's just a rotation of kicks and stops. But as you can see, this just allows everyone to just keep pumping and keep doing good stuff with what I found to be very minimal effort. So it's really not too bad at all. And then we have you finish it off, then we go over to the Mag Mammoth. Now in this one here, when I did record this, I actually didn't know about the Draconic Tincture. So let's just pause right here. You can grab this Draconic Tincture right here. Preferably have a DPS do it. It's a little bit easier for them because they can have the range. Grab that. Don't put it on him immediately. That's bad. What you want to do is you want to pull Magma Tusk. I keep calling him Mag Mammoth because of the mount. What you want to do is you want to pull Mag Mammoth and Magma Tusk. And when he does his first lava spray, throw the tincture under him. Right now, you throw it under him and he will never gain more stacks than 2. I don't know if it's a bug, but it's been working out well in the runs that I've done it since. Now, this job here, as a tank, you want to be keeping him out of the fire puddles as much as possible. That is the whole goal. Keep him out as fire puddles as much as possible, but you can't do this alone because he has a charge mechanic. And that charge mechanic will hit DPS and healers. They need to be baiting this as much as you to be able to kind of get through and go around and basically be able to live kind of everything, right? So you really don't want him running across the room and leaving all of these fire puddles nearby. It just makes it much more difficult on the tank to manage, but that's not entirely on you. This run here was very clean. I think it was a 26 minute 17, and it was a full pug aside from one of my buddies. This volatile mutation is something that deals a lot of damage, so something you're going to want to work out for. This guy here doesn't deal a whole lot of tank damage. It's not something you really got to worry about for yourself, but again, we see the baits ending up well across the room, and you can't control that as a tank. You cannot control how far they end up throughout the entire thing, and all you can do is your best to keep him out of the fire puddles, which you have to watch out between his feet as well, because sometimes the fire puddles will spawn there, and like you see, kind of, it's a little bit difficult. Here, the fire puddle grew a little bit, and you can see his thing is just on it a little bit. We ended up getting this to a 5 stack, which kind of really sucked, but we ended up doing it anyway with only the 1 death. And I just tried pulling him out as best as possible to keep him clear, but again, this doesn't get this doesn't get much easier. These fire puddles do go away. This fight was the bulk of our deaths on this run, but that's really not too bad. After that, we are going to be going over to the next wing, which I am gonna kind of just skip over and go over here. Now this one here, I really like pulling big. These Tame Phoenixes don't do a terrible amount of stuff. They've got some kicks. They're worth really low count, so they're pretty easy to go into bulk, give your DPS some funnel damage. So I pull all of those Tame Phoenixes all around. I kind of missed my mark on that one, but this is really a really good time to do some AoE and deal with everything that you have to deal with. And you just deal with the hunters. The hunters as well do a binding shot cast. I think that's what it's called. It's binding something. That's going to put a little swirly on the ground. You can't control that. Have your DPS move out of it. Really, that's just kind of it. And kind of move over. Now, since this isn't fort bolstering, I love the fact that I can pull this mini-boss, this Overseer Lahar, on with some other trash and kind of get this going. Everything in this room, I pull heavily in this room as well. I have lots of 6+ pulls just to be able to kind of make up some of that trash a little bit later that we are going to be skipping. He has an Explosive Crush, so really get out of it, and he has a Burning Roar kick. Kick it. Really, he's not that bad. He deals a little bit of tank damage. But if I've noticed that he will pat all the way down, so just get in the habit of pulling him. As a mini-boss goes, he's really not terrible. He's pretty easy to kind of deal with. So just bring it down. After that, for my route here, I pull these 2 birds, these 2 Tame Phoenixes. Boom. I will pull these 2 trainees, and then I will go over to the right here, pull the Bone Tender and the other trainee. The trainees do have a soothe, so Bear, this is a really good time for you to shine and get those soothes off. But the Bone Tender here does the Bone Toss. Does quite a bit. The Magma Fist is something that you do want to be stopping, as well as the Mending Clay is a kickable cast. Really, there's not, like I said, it's really easy to kind of pull here and not worry too much about everything. Now, in these pulls on Fort do hurt a little bit more, so you need to be comfortable as a tank when you're pulling them. This is why I kind of opt for the 6 pulls, but you could easily make this into 2 triples and kind of get around. If you are comfortable and you have a group that can get all of the required kicks and stops off, you could really save yourself some time around there. But I find with pulling 6+ targets, especially when you have something like an Outlaw Rogue, Enhancement Shaman, and a Boomkin, you really making the most for their DPS, and you can kind of pull like a Mad Lad and have an easy time. Again, these trainees, these hunters, these bone tenders don't do a whole lot more from what we discussed earlier. Here we deal with the incorporeal because that's a thing that we have to do. Because it's been a pug week. That's been a whole thing, and that's going to be a whole big rant. After that, we pull the 2 hunters down here with the 2 trainees, and we go around. Now, I didn't do my best. I kind of held on to Divine Toll a little bit too long here just to get threat, because these guys are cranking. Because of Spiteful, we very rarely get to end in combat, but really this is avoid the binding shots. Stop the bone tosses whenever you can, because it does put on that bleed on your DPS. So it's not something you necessarily want to kind of have to worry about. You don't want to have to deal with it. There are some kicks I should have done here as well. Some stops. Sorry, I had Divine Bedazzle ready. Blinding Light. So up next, we are Chargath, the Bane of Scales. Is that what his name? Bane of Scales? I actually never read that back portion. So this one here, he has a frontal magma wave. Don't be in that. Pretty simple, right? But he has Grounding Spear. Now this one here, and Dragon Strike. Dragon Strike leaves a very nasty bleed on a target. So if you have any sort of bleed removal, really, really good to help. This is something that, for me, if it goes on the healer, I tend to bop them pretty quickly, just to remove that bleed and give them some stuff. Now, Grounding Spear here. This is one where, especially on tyrannical weeks, you can see that we're holding. You let the drop, every spear that you break drops a dot. It leaves a dot on the entire party. But you need to get rid of all the chains before he's done that big AoE cast, which that AoE cast isn't that bad itself. It looks scary, but it's not bad. But you want to be breaking 1 chain at a time. Your DPS can spread, or your DPS can do this, but unless your healer is really comfortable being, yeah, break them, I got big stuff, do it 1 at a time. Sorry about that. But there we have that Dragon Strike dot. Boom. I am going to... I thought I had bop for this, but apparently I had accidentally untapped it. So that's my bad. I changed my... I was doing some questing and I took bop off to change for something, and I forgot to put it back on my talents. So here, again, 1 chain at a time. Let this dot drop off right here. Break the other chain. As you can see, the big AoE is really not that bad. Is really not terrible. It's what happens is he leaves once he finishes that big AoE cast, he leaves a big dot, and that really sucks. So you don't want to be doing that, right? That's not something you want to be doing. So you just finish him off. Very simple mechanics, but the Grounding Spear can get bugged from time to time. You don't want to be rolling as a monk. If you have the chain, you don't want to be hovering as a evoker. Now here, this is where I differ from pretty much everyone. I come up here and I open these doors through lockpicking. Now I am a blacksmith, so I use the Ceravite skeleton keys and I open the door. You can also use a rogue, which we have a rogue in the party who's going to get it done before I do, as you can see. But all of my tunes are blacksmithing. You can also go with inscription for the writ of lockpicking or whatever. Here, we don't need this 1 pack. He's very inefficient to pull just 1 mob. So you run up. There's also a food buff in the other corridor. If you go through there, you need 25 skill in dragonflight cooking. So it does give you 3 stacks of a movement speed buff. So it can kind of get you going. But I prefer this route here. I just find, like I said, it works a little bit better for me. It works better for cooldowns. It allows for more AoE pulls. And this is kind of how I like to do it. So here is constantly trying to keep as many targets that we can and working around. Now this one here, the Iron Torch has the Mode of Combustion and the Scorching Breath. So both can be kickable, stoppable. The Lava Bearer is kind of what you got to worry about. He's going to leave those lava pools around, and the Lava Flares are just going to cast Melt all of the time. Kick them as often as possible, stop them when you can. Really, this isn't the most difficult of pulls, but the throw lava from the Lava Bearers is something that you can run out of room very quickly, but the Iron Torch is fairly easily kickable. After that, we go into the next kind of standard pull over here. Now this one here, the Bone Splitters. Sorry, the Bone Splitters here. Now I don't have them targeted, but anytime that you have 2 of these in a pull, they get very dangerous because they do 2 things. One, they have a charge called Piercing Marrow. We'll see it in a second. That charges some of your players. They can target the same player, and this do very big damage. So as a tank, yeah, Pierced Marrow, that's what it is. You definitely want to stop that as often as possible. The other one is the Dragon Bane Axe toss thing, which leaves a bleed, a very nasty bleed. After that, to make count, I pull this here. I find it's really not that bad if you have the stops, because these two Bone Splitters both open with the charge. So either you need to be well ahead of your party to eat that charge, or at least stop one of them. Through the practice and learning and kind of going through the entire thing, I have learned, try to stop this up on pull. DK, grip it, put down a Ring of Peace, Ursol's Vortex, whatever you got to stop that, stop it. You know, anything you can, at least one of them, stun it, let them offset it, and then that way you can try and stop the bleeds and all of that going on. And then after that, we skip this Iron Torch Commander, who is just insanely unfun to deal with. He is worth a lot of count, but it's all single target. You don't want to be pulling too much more with him in higher keys. It's really not fun. Here, I kind of, I almost got in trouble, but I kind of had lay on hands. This is kind of another easy, slightly double. We have the two Iron Torches. This is something that I was not doing in Fort Bolstering. I was splitting up the Lava Flares with the other ones because the Blacksmith can get really nasty on Bolstering with that Fort Stomp. But yeah. So again, the Iron Torches can be CCable. The Blacksmiths cannot, so work around that. Eat the Blacksmith cast where, you know, whenever he does the Fort Stomps or anything else. And just try and keep everything away from your party. After that, we keep going into the Forge Master's room. Here we have the Lava Bears and another Bone Splitter. So the Bone Splitter here is actually the most deceptively bad. Like they really do truck your party. They do, and this is something that you want to eat as many casts or stop as many casts as you can. Again, it's that Dragon Bone, that Pierce Marrow, and the Dragon Bone Axe toss, Dragon Bone Axe. Yeah, Dragon Bone Axe. You want to be stopping that. It leaves, like I said, it leaves a nasty bleed and the charge trucks your party. So this is all stuff that you can do to make this run go a lot smoother for your party. And, you know, they can help themselves as well. After that, I drop down here. Those monstrosities over on the side up there, the ones that pat, those are banned in my runs. I do not pull them at all. I don't like them. They're not fun. They hurt so much. So I just don't run them. As you can see, I kind of dip down and you can see those pats. I do not pull them at all. And I just kind of run work around it, right? We've tried pulling them. It doesn't end very well. You have to commit cooldowns, because this boss really trucks on healers, so this is not something you want to be you want to be committing very much. Now, if you did, for whatever reason, have Lust on cooldown, I also pull this other patrol up on top, but I only do it after the pull, after the boss pull, because of the Lust. I want to get Lust back on cooldown as quick as possible. That way, in case if something does happen or we're a little bit slow going forward, we could still potentially get another Lust on the last boss. But this one here, I found it is just all around better to just lust it. So here we're pulling Forge Master Goric, who's got a couple of mechanics. A lot of watch your feet, a lot of swirlies you want to dodge, but he does a tank mechanic called Heated Swings, and this is where tanking this boss comes into play. The Blazing Aegis leaves a nasty dot on everyone, but for me, what I do here is I pick one portion of the room, and I start my getting knocked back there, get out of it, wait for the circle to come around you before you really start your movement out, so then that way you can save as much room as possible around the room. And then I will, for every consistent one afterwards, I will just start making sure my back is going clockwise around and keeping those fire puddles all nice and neat as best as I can. As you can see here, I'm already pre-planning my Heated Swings, and then I'm ready to just get knocked back. Boom. I wait, you move, and that is kind of it for the tank. Dodge your feet. This is really much more of a healer fight than this is a tank fight, but you can make it easier by giving everybody as much room as possible to be able to move by not having those tank circles everywhere on the heated swings, because that is really not fun. As you can see here, I see it coming on my screen. I'm already starting to kind of pre-position myself and kind of boom, then move, then done. After this boss fight is done, there is a blacksmith shield that you can grab, and it requires 25 skill in blacksmithing, which is why I utilize this skip. So it's this right here. So after this boss is done, I am going to grab this shield, and we're going to use it on the last boss. After that, so like I said, we wait for the pat after this. So here I grab the shield, we go up here, we grab the pat, but we've already explained this, already new mechanics. Then we're going to continue skipping, and then we're going to go over to, so as you can see here, we skip around the Iron Torch Commander. I do pull these lava bearers, but I have seen a lot of people skip them as well. There's definitely some trash along the way that you could opt for instead of them. I find these are kind of inefficient, but they're in the way. But as well, they've got True Sight, so unless you're planning on a weird death skip, or you've got some really some like vanish tech or something that you can get them to evade, I guess vanish tech wouldn't work. But if you've got something to kind of reset the pull and get them to kind of go away, you could kind of go around. I just pull them, especially with the ease of pugs. I really don't like it when, you know, I'm trying to introduce as less skips as possible in my routes, because I've been doing this long enough to see everybody fucking fail them all the time. So that's just something I just don't want to deal with. After that, so up here we have the first of a couple of difficult packs. So we have the 2 Wardens and the Apex Blazewing. Now, the 2 Wardens deal the Blazing Slash and a Frontal, which is something you really want to watch out for. So me, what I try and do is I try and tank them around here so the knockback isn't too bad for me, but leaving this space here for my melee. But then you do have the Frontal that you have to dodge, which I want to get back there as fast as possible. So as you can see, I baited that Volcanic Guard Frontal right back to where it was while we burned down the Apex Phoenix, Predator, I can't remember what it's called now. So many mobs to remember in all 8 new dungeons. And because we're getting new dungeons every season, there's only so much space in my brain. But you can bait those pretty well here. We're just going to deal with the incorporeal beings, go up. This is one that I've seen a lot of people double, and if you are comfortable with your group, and you're comfortable with the time that you have left, or if you're uncomfortable with the time you have left and you need to do it, here I see we got 22 minutes in on a 33-minute run. I have plenty of time to kind of cruise this and relax. I know my healers usually tend to kind of use something big on those Phoenixes, so I'll let that time come back. But the Lavamancers have this Molten Army, which what happens there is when they cast Molten Army, they gain a shield that makes that cast unkickable until its shield is burnt. You want to burn down that shield as much as possible, so that way you can kick Molten Army, because Molten Army makes those lava spawns come up and can those things like actually kind of secretly truck a little bit. So you want to try to have the least amount of those possible. And again, the Wardens do that Frontal and the Blazing Slash. But I've noticed that those lava spawns, especially when you get 5 or 6 of them, they kind of trucks. Oh, Apex Blazewing is what it's called. Then here we have a Warden, a Lavamancer, and a Blazewing. The Blazewing is still the prio target, but you still want to be dumping everything into the Lavamancer shield when it does pop up. Like, the Lavamancer on his own isn't bad. It's that Molten Army cast. So the moment he does this Molten Barrier, he starts casting Molten Army. You want to burn down that shield as much as possible. That's when I make the hard swap, but it's pretty easy. We get very little lava spawns coming along the way. Kick the lava bolt cast, make your life a little bit simpler along the way, and then boom. Here we have like the Volcanic Guard, Frontal. Not that difficult. And this route here gives you exactly 100% on the last pull. A little bit extra because the Warden does count for a little bit more. So if you do miss something along the way, you do have at least a little bit of backup. But I like getting that 100% on the last pull. All right, Warlord Sarga. So as you can see here, I still have my extra action button. This is the blacksmithing shield. Make sure your entire party are good little boys and girls and all go get the molten gold as fast as possible. But you can see I have this extra action button with the shield, and then you're going to see me go get the molten gold. That's because they stack. So you can make for a really, really quick first shield by just using both in succession. Really, aside, every time you pick up a Molten Gold, though, you are going to get a stack of the Curse, so this is really where that D-Curse comes in handy. If you're a DPS, if you're a tank, you know, bears have D-Curse as well. This is a really good dungeon to spec into it, because those curses suck. She does the Magma Shield cast, so boom, here I'm going to kind of get ready, and I'm going to wand, and then I'm going to bury... I'm going to shield barrier that the shield. Oh my god, words are tough. I've been talking for 24 minutes now. But you can make really, really quick work of it, and as you can see here, that shield really does truck. I just spurted for a lot of damage there, so... Aside from that, that's a rinse and repeat. Watch for the frontal. Make sure you get the gold and you have your gold pile ready, your gold treasure ready. Now, there is the one that does have the, there is the charge, and this one is one that I really think should be removed. This one that I have here now is actually castable while movable. This is actually the safest one to get, is that orb, which is a ground placement ability, and you can actually move and dodge everything while you've got it. Yeah, very nice. So here we had one person kind of delay their little shield thing, but we able to burn it down, not a problem. And we had a very, very good run, and we commented on how clean that run was. Most of our deaths came from Magma Tusk, which is not really going to be that shocking if you run this dungeon at all. But that is my route, that is my tips. That is kind of the basic strategies. There are some more cheeses that you can do along the way, but those might get patched through. This is more or less here. This is how to kind of go about it basically, and make sure that you're kind of being as, you know, as effective as possible. I don't know every little nuanced thing for every single tank, or kind of what goes on. There's a lot of community knowledge that kind of comes around and works around with this. So this is something that, you know, we're a couple of weeks in. There was still Shadowlands tech that we were discovering in Season 3 of the expansion, right? There was some new stuff coming up, but we had a really, really good run, and we were really happy with how it went. But that is it for me today, so I'll just kind of go back. Thank you very much. If this is a series that you like, give us some love, give us some support. I am doing this for all 8 dungeons. I already have footage for 4. Alderman, Brackenhide, Neltharus, obviously, and Halls of Infusion. All the footage and all the runs are done. I have them downloaded. I just got to kind of take the time, record, and go around and find the throat, find the capacity to talk non-stop for almost 30 minutes on each of these runs, which can be a little daunting, especially when I streamed in the morning, and I'm going to be streaming at night. So, thank you very much for watching, everyone. Have yourself a good one. Happy tanking. Bye.